Well, if this pandemic is teaching us anything, it's reminding us how deeply our lives are shaped by things that are completely out of our control. We have no choice about and no say in. And I don't just mean some things. I mean almost all of our life is like that. From the very beginning, I didn't pick whether or not I'd be a male or female, what my race would be, what country I would be born into, what time in human history that I would show up on the planet, what kind of family I would get, who my parents would be, how many brothers or sisters I would have, the culture of our home, what state in that country that I would be born into. And that continues to play itself out in my life. Think of how much happens in my day-to-day that I completely cannot change, yet it decides in many ways what will happen that day for me. From the weather to what other people are doing in traffic to national events and state events and city events. Doesn't mean that my life's out of control. It just means that I'm not writing my story in huge, significant ways, and neither are you. And rather than that, to cause us to freak out that we're out of control or that we have no control over major areas of our life, or that my comfort or my security is dependent in many ways on people, places, and things that I can't change. Instead, it's to point me to my Creator, God, who determined all of it so that I would know Him and that I would rest in Him. That the answer to my problems or my emotional angst or my questions is not primarily to get more understanding or to get more control or get more comfort or approval or security. Instead, it's to rest that a good and wise and loving God, who is sovereign over all things at the macro level and at the micro level, loves me. He knows me, and He's telling a story about Himself through me and in me and with me that through faith in Christ I know will ultimately be for my joy. Isn't that what the Apostle Paul says in Acts chapter 17, starting in verse 24, in a sermon to some Athenian intellectuals? The God who made the world and everything in it, being Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in temples made by man, nor is He served by human hands as though He needed anything, since He Himself gives to all mankind life and breath and everything. And He made from one man every nation of mankind to live on the face of the earth. Look at this. Having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place. And that's true of you and me. Why? That they should seek God and perhaps feel their way toward Him and find Him. Yet He is actually not far from each one of us. God is not far from you right now. Wherever you are, regardless of all of those determined traits about your story that you can't change, or events happening in your life that are out of your control, that this is a moment for each one of us to yet again come to the God who is right here, right now, with you and me, and rest in His good and wise and loving hand, and trust Him.